Welcome to Real Wisdom, where we dive into the real stories of remarkable women. Today, we're thrilled to be joined by Charlene Bazarian, a passionate fitness blogger and attorney who turned a personal journey into an inspiring mission to empower others. After transforming her life and losing nearly 100 pounds, Charlene now motivates her followers on their own paths to fitness. She's here to share the story behind her incredible transformation and the lessons learned along the way. And if you're looking forward to more empowering stories, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Charlene, you have the most incredible transformative story. And I just think it's something that women would be inspired by and can really learn a lot from what you've done
Well, thank
over the
you.
course of the last, I don't know how many years. Can you take us back to that day at the spa when you knew something had to change?
Well, I try to always talk about this moment in terms of the fact that prior to my day at the spa and sparking what's now become my little aha moment was like I knew I had to lose weight because the sizes had steadily creeped up and I always felt like I would start a diet and then not stick with it but I had no idea kind of how out of control it got. And I always say I still have a little bit of that dysmorphia feeling because while I knew I needed to lose weight, I didn't think I needed to lose half of myself. But so I was treating myself to a day of beauty at a spa. And the girl behind the desk handed me a robe, and I went back to get changed. And it was a one size fits all robe, and it didn't fit me. And now this has kind of become my story that I share and to try to encourage and inspire people. But when I went back to the desk, she kind of body shamed me and made me repeat many times that the robe didn't fit me. And she was like, "Well, I just don't understand." And it's frozen in time for me how I felt in that moment. And when she finally drummed up a larger robe and I went back to the dressing room, and I just remember having I never want to feel like this again. And that sort of sparked and this time I mean it, weight loss. And so that's what started my nearly 100-pound weight loss journey and transformed pretty much every part of my life.
Because, I mean, honestly, so many of us have had moments like that. And there's always that little part in you that says, yeah, this time I mean it. But this time you really did mean
Well,
it.
one of the things I really try to share with people is that it's okay to take 100 first steps. I think that
Mhm.
nobody took me seriously that time after the spa when I said, no, I am making some serious life changes. I don't ever want to feel like that. And they were like, yeah, yeah, we've heard that before. I always say, if you lose 5 pounds, people are, "Oh, good for you." You really start to make hard choices. No, I don't want to go for drinks. No, I'm not having the appetizer. Certain things that kind of hold a mirror up to other people's choices. They're not always so supportive. Everyone's, fun anymore. Oh, come on, have a little. And I always say the saboteurs are everywhere, and you kind of really need to steer your own ship.
Oh, definitely. You have to stick to your guns on this one. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and we're just going to do a little quick fun round of this or that.
Okay.
Shopping on Amazon or going to the mall?
Ooh, shopping on Amazon.
Sneakers or sandals?
Sneakers.
Comedy show or drama series?
Comedy show.
Movie night or game night?
Movie night.
Cabernet or an old fashioned?
Cabernet.
Morning routine or evening routine?
Morning routine.
All right, I have something I'm so curious about. I'm going to put three words on the table: attorney, disc jockey, and fitness blogger.
Yes.
Explain.
Okay. Well, I was in law school and I was dating a disc jockey. And so I would go to jobs occasionally with him and play a song if he went off for a moment. And then while I was in law school, somebody called out sick from one of the nightclubs that he was working at, and they sent me. And I was like, "Are you kidding? I've played 2 songs while you go off to the restroom." But there was nobody else, and I went, and the nightclub liked me. So I started to do that kind of as a side hustle when I was in law school. I graduated law school. I still run the disc jockey business. And then after my spa aha moment, I started losing weight and having some success, and I sent in, at the urging of my trainer at the time, one of my before and after photos, and the first thing I got picked for was a workout catalog, and I got $100 in, free workout videos because they picked me and put me on the catalog, and then shortly after that, Good Housekeeping magazine reached out and wanted to do a profile, and that was like, "Do I wanna go to New York and do a photo shoot?" "Yes, I absolutely do." So that kind of started. I used to joke that if you don't think people read things, they certainly do. I heard from people, like, all over the country, and people were messaging, and, "How did you do it? What did you do?" And what started my kind of blog and social media FBJ Fit platform was
Mhm.
because a few high school girls were messaging me in addition to strangers that read the article, and I was using a lot of my personal Facebook page to talk about, weight tips and weight loss tips and my journey and what happened, and so I thought my regular friends probably don't wanna see every little thing about the "Don't eat this, eat that instead, try this," or so I created this little page thinking it was gonna be me and my 10 high school girlfriend, and now it's close to 10,000 followers, and I hear from people, like, literally around the world, and then from there, I started my blog, and I started writing for Women Fitness, and my story's been featured in a lot of magazines and publications, and so I never know where I'm gonna turn up.
Do you think you could have done this without the help of a trainer?
Oh,
Because you
absolutely. I didn't start going to a personal trainer until much, much later. But what had happened was I started with home video workouts, and that's why I got picked for that video catalog. And that's what Good Housekeeping loved about my story. They were doing a feature on women who had lost weight, who didn't spend a lot of money or didn't do a huge program. Or so my thing was that I had done home video workouts, and that was how I started. And then, like I said, I remember that I had a friend that used to listen to those Tony Robbins tapes, and it was all about mimicking. And it was about that if you don't know how to be successful at something, find someone who is and mimic what they do. So in my mind, I said, what would a fit person do? And they would read fitness magazines, and they would drink protein shakes, and they would join a gym, or they would get a trainer. And as I started like experiencing different things and seeing what worked and what didn't work. And I mean, I've had some amazing trainers, and I always say, as much as I still work out every day by myself, it's always nice to have somebody give you a little push. But yeah, that was
Mhm.
just like a once a week thing. But she just kept saying, I think when I really was almost to my goal, I didn't, again, with that dysmorphia, it didn't necessarily feel like it was that big of a deal. And she was like, oh my God, you have to send it in. You'd be one of those great before and after stories. And so I was like, okay. So,
Well, then it sounded like she was really encouraging for you.
yes.
What did that feel like to get that call to go to New York
That was
and
that was pretty spectacular because that was just like a national magazine, and it was really fun, and now I have to say it's happened. I've been in a lot of magazines and a
yeah.
lot of websites, and so, I always get excited, and I always joke that if you're behind me in the supermarket and one of my magazines is out, I will fold it up and, "Hey, it's me," Any part of my story, I always think that that one awful moment, maybe it touched somebody else and encouraged someone else to start, and that I take very seriously because I feel like I took a horrible moment and kinda created something better out of it, so
Did you after all this happened, did you ever want to go back into the spot
many
at this
times.
point and be like,
And it
"Early?"
closed, and I always laugh that there's this woman out there who has no idea the impact she had not only on my life, but I've had people write to me about my tips have helped them on their journey, and so her little mean-spirited moment, while mean, ended up causing a positive trajectory, but it's closed now, and probably for the best. There are probably better times to go to.
I never understand why people in her position, um, kinda get that last little dig in, as if you weren't
I don't get
aware.
it either because it's like anybody who needs to lose weight knows they need to lose weight. You don't need to be, told that. And I remember even before the spa moment, that's why I always say, like, I remember sitting on the edge of my bed having a conversation with my best friend saying, I have a wedding coming up. Nothing fits me. I don't know what to wear. And I remember crying, just being like, just so sad about that. I don't know how I got
Mhm.
here. And then I remember gaining another 30 pounds before that spa day. So it's just like anywhere you are in that range, you know where you are.
So I guess in one way, you not grateful wouldn't be the right word, but maybe she just was that little push that you
Right.
needed to be
I
like,
think
"Yeah,
that
this
was
isn't
just
gonna
I don't
happen."
think I don't I just remember saying, "I'm just not feeling like this again. You're not talking to me like that," so I that was just what it took.
I follow you on social media, and you wear a lot of hats,
Me too.
but I recently came across something you posted on YouTube, about taking an acting seminar?
I did. I did.
Where did you find the time to do
Well,
that?
what was really funny was probably, let's see, 2018, I think it might have been. A
Mhm.
friend of mine who does movie background work and commercials and things posted something about that they were filming the movie Little Women in the area, and it was a period piece, and they said they were looking for extras, and it was kind of costume specific. You had to fit the costumes because they were vintage clothes that were really small, and so I was like, well, that was really fun, and so I signed up, and I never thought I would hear. And then, then they messaged me and said, "Yes, we picked you, but you need to be here Monday morning at crack of dawn." And so I did it that day, and it was the one with Timothy Chalamet, and it was really really fun to do. It was just a really fun thing. Long days, hard work, and I don't know, it just kind of bit me. So I started doing it more and more, and there's a lot of filming going on in Boston.
Mhm.
Then obviously COVID hit. That kind of came to a little bit of a screeching halt because they weren't doing anything then, and then there was the union strike last year, so that slowed things
Yeah.
down. But I love doing it, and so you never know. You meet the nicest people, and it's something completely different.
Do you ever think about maybe going for a bigger role? Would you be up for something like
It's
that?
really funny because I do all types of different things. So I do the background work. I've done some commercials myself, but as myself. I've
Mhm.
I've done, I did a Let's Make a Deal. So as long as it's nothing that I think is, I don't think I can do anything that would be dangerous. I'm not a risk taker. I'm not going on Survivor.
Oh,
But yeah, like I try to do different experiences and something that's fun. So there are times you get called up. When I did one, I was a news reporter, and they did on spot auditions to try to do one of the interviews. So you would get a speaking part. But oh my God, it was paragraphs of dialogue, and it was on the spot. And I was like, oh, I don't think I'm ready for this. But if you don't try, you never get anything. So it's just, yes, I definitely think I would do other things.
what did you get out of going to something like that? Because I've thought in the past, and I think a lot of women do at our age, when you're kind of looking for something else, something, maybe the kids are out of the house or there's a career change. Where, what part of you said, you know what, Charlene, it's okay. You go out and try this.
It was just really more that I thought how interesting that would be to do a period piece when I first saw the Little Women. And it was, I mean, I had the 30-pound ball dress on with the corset and the petticoats. And it was just a really fun, different thing from your average day. And I said, what I really come to appreciate when I do it is that every day it's like you're meeting different people, but then there are some people that do this regularly, and I've made some good friends, and I do think that it's something that keeps you alive, I guess, is the right
Mhm.
word.
Do you have a friend who you could drag along to do different things like this?
A lot of the people that do it now are people that I've met on set that, so what we do is like there's a casting notice, we message each other. And the one thing I really try to do, whether it's my weight loss, acting, or opportunities, whenever I see anything that I think would help somebody else, or I'm like, oh, I know someone that does that, I send it to them. And so like when
And
I see a casting notice, even if it's not right for me, I forward it to somebody else. And I think with my weight loss story, I remember somebody said to me once, I can't believe you let, your before pictures so publicly out there. And I was like, well, I did walk around in society. I wasn't way in my attic. I'm proud of how far I've come, but I use my story to encourage people, not, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I want to hide that I ever was overweight. And I think it's funny because I wasn't heavy growing up. I was kind of rather average up until college,
okay.
and then hit the, freshman 15, and then went to law school and put some more weight on, then got married, then had a baby.
Right. And all those things, 10 pounds here, 5 pounds
Right.
there, they all catch up with you.
But I think that a lot of people that knew me when I was younger or knew me from college never knew me at that. And they see me now, and they just think, here I am. So it's kind of funny that there are different people who they treat you differently. But I know that sometimes when I'm with somebody that doesn't ever know I was heavy, they
Mhm.
might, if I ask for something on the side, or if I were at a restaurant and I order funny, they roll their eyes. And so sometimes I'll explain and say, well, someone who likes to say, oh, you can eat whatever you want. And I always say, you know how I can eat whatever I want? Because I never eat whatever I want. Because eating whatever I want took me down a very different path. I work out mostly at home, especially since COVID. But when I did used to go to the gym, I just remember if I saw somebody kind of like, right after January, just starting out, and they just give you like a little side eye. And then sometimes I would try to say something encouraging about how I really try to make sure I get here because I lost a lot of weight. And then that sparks a conversation of that it's not easy. It's, I just remember even when I did that Good Housekeeping story about that we all had a different angle. And I mean, just kind of through trial, error, and experience of what I call my Atkins to Weight Watchers tour, there were some things I knew that were not going to be sustainable for people. You need to pick things you can live with that are a lifestyle change. I know that sounds very cliche, but it really is true.
Where do you continue to find this motivation? There are so many days where you're like, yeah,
As far as the day-to-day motivation, I know certain things about myself. And I always tell people that's an important thing. It's important to have a self-awareness as to who you are. And there's a lot of sentiment about not weighing yourself every day. But I do weigh myself every day. And I weigh myself every day because I think that it's very easy to let it get away from you. So I try to give myself a 3-pound range. But I also know certain things happen. If it's a full moon, that scale's going up 2 pounds no matter what I do. I ate a bunch of salty food, even too much vegetable salad was a lot of a salad, whatever. It changes, but you become aware of that. When I'm in my range and I want to have a treat, I'm at an occasion and I have a fancy cupcake or whatever it is, then I see how that plays out. But I know about myself, it's easier to lose 3 pounds than it is to lose almost 100. So I just never want to put myself in that position again. So that keeps me honest. The other thing I try to do is realize what I can do and what I can't do. And
mhm,
for me, I could not give up cream and sugar in my coffee. It made me an unpleasant person. I wasn't nice to be around. And now granted, I'm not the extra I used to be. Now it's a smidge of light cream and a smidge of organic cane sugar, but that keeps me sane. I I enjoy my food and I make sure that I pick things that I do and that I don't give up something that's going to make me unhappy. And I said, but I do realize for myself, breads and pastas are bad, not bad food. They're bad for me because I still have no portion control ability. So I would rather have the grilled chicken, the salad. I would rather have so many other things because then I would feel full. So it's just a matter of knowing what you can have a little of or what you want to have. I mean, there are certain
yeah,
foods that I used to have pre-weight loss that just don't, I mean, literally don't appeal to me now. If I see something in a heavy cream sauce with a lot of cheese and a lot of whatever, I'm like, I know physically I will not feel well the next day. Nothing to do with the
right.
scale, nothing to do with the weight. My rings won't fit. I'll just be puffy and achy, and I don't want to feel like that. And I think that I try to share, if you really pay attention to how food makes you feel and not just how it tastes. Because, yeah, it
Mm,
might taste good when you're eating it. How do you feel after you eat it? Not guilty. No, I shouldn't have that because I don't think there's that. I always say, try not to think of food in terms of anything other than a choice. You don't deserve a treat. You're not depriving yourself if you don't have something. It's all just a choice. But how do you feel? And I know when I eat really crappy food, I don't feel well. And that's part of being older. Maybe I didn't feel that way when I was younger, but I know that if I eat too many, things now that are starchy carbs or sugars, or I just don't feel great. I just try to skip the pasta and bread. Although I always say, unless it's worth it. Unless it's worth it. Like I went someplace and they did a mac and cheese pasta thing that they made in a cheese wheel and they light it on fire. And I mean, oh my God, it's the best I ever had. That was worth it. It was, you're only going to get it at that one place and why
yeah.
not? And, and mercifully it was only an appetizer. So it wasn't something to have too much of, but it was worth it.
Oh, sure. Yes, it's definitely something special. There are so many people trying to lose weight, and it doesn't happen overnight. But unfortunately, it feels that we all kind of want that magic solution. How do you feel about that? Because it doesn't sound as if you took any shortcuts.
No, prior to my spa day, I had tried everything, and that's why I call my Atkins to Weight Watchers. I mean, I did. I signed up for everything, tried everything, and then including during that pre-spa time, I actually did do the fen drug, and that had a big class action afterwards. And yeah, at the time, everyone said this is the latest breakthrough, much like they're saying with those Ozempic.
Mhm.
Well, it sounds great to be able to take a
Yes.
pill. What do you hear? A long list of may cause this, may cause that. I mean, I guess what if you tried everything else and that's something you wanted to do? I mean, I tried the fen, but I was also part of the class action because it did cause some mild mitral valve reflux, and that's just something you have to live with. You made a choice, and it caused a little heart damage, but I just don't think that it's worth that risk.
Mhm.
Would I pick that over surgery? Absolutely. I just think that it starts to feel hopeless and that you have no other choices, but maybe you just haven't had that moment yet. As far as the keeping motivation and people wanting to lose weight and not having
Mhm.
success, I think the biggest problem is it takes a while to lose weight. And you could work really hard all week. You could do your exercise, you could eat clean, you could go for walks, do all of those things. Great. Okay. So now you're feeling good about yourself. So you go out that weekend and you're going to have the extra glass of wine or you're going to have a little treat. Then they bring those tortilla chips over and you have some of those. Now, it still takes 3,500 calories to make a pound, but your body responds to that. You had too much salt, you had a few extra carbs, you puff up a little. And that's when you say nothing works. And I always say, I did learn on my Atkins to Weight Watchers tour a little bit from everything I did. There's just those certain things that you don't think about. And I think that I'm very aware of. I never food journaled because I just don't like it. I don't want to have to
Mhm.
write down everything I'm eating. But it's important to be aware of what you're eating and what have you had during the day? What extra things did you have? It's okay to have a bite, but make sure you're counting it.
Who is your biggest cheerleader?
Who is my biggest cheerleader? Oh, that's a good question. But I would say probably my youngest son. We have this thing that we joke about manifesting things. So if we go for a walk or we're talking in the morning, we say what we want to happen that day. And we always laugh when it happens. And he seems the most excited when I get picked for something or if I audition for something or I'm in a magazine, whatever.
Reflecting on your journey, what advice would you give to someone who sees a part of themselves in your story?
Well, I think that I touched on the part about give yourself time to have some success because if you lose 2 pounds and then gain 3 pounds because you ate on the weekend, then you're gonna give up because you're gonna feel like nothing works, and I think you need to give yourself a longer stretch of time. What I do think is one of the most important lessons that I say all the time, and it's not popular. Everyone likes to say everything in moderation. It's all about balance, and I don't believe any of that for a minute. I think moderation is for maintenance. I think when I wanna be moderate is what I do now. Now it's okay. Now I'll have the glass of wine when I go out. But when I had 100 pounds to lose, now was not the time for moderation. That was it because moderation keeps you the same. I always try to move. If I only have 15 minutes, I'll go for a 15-minute walk. I'll hop on the bike. My biggest change for me was weight training. Weight training was like, very transformative for me. But I still do cardio too. I'm just saying that's my, like, when I put on a TV show, I'll pop on the bike or I'll go for a walk or I'll, just get outside a little bit. I'll go for a bike ride. I love biking outside, but wintertime now, so biking is inside.
Oh, come on. You've grown up in Boston, haven't you?
Yeah. I still
Yes.
walk.
So don't tell me it's winter time.
I still walk in the winter, but I don't. But my bike ride days are only when it's nice out. Otherwise, I'll get on. I have a life fitness cycle that I call my rescue bike.
we're getting to the end of our conversation here, but I really wanted to know one last thing. What are you passionate about here at this moment? What do you have going on in your life that you would like people to know and to be a part of?
I think my social media platform is my baby. I think that that's really where I find the most joy. I love to share different ideas with people. I love to talk to people and hear their story. And I always think it's funny because I get messages from people. And then when I write back to them, they said, "Oh, I never expected you to write back or write back so comprehensively." Everyone that writes to me, I write back. And if they ask a question, if they want advice, I have all of my tips and notes written out. And I just say the word and I'll send it. I'm not selling anything. And I think that's a big difference. I love writing. I love my blog. I love doing interviews with other people because I think that it's very interesting to find out what inspires everybody, what caused you to go on your journey. And I find people's stories very fascinating. And I always seem like I get a little bit of information or inspiration from them too. So that's always fun.
So you're saying if somebody hits you up, they're going to get the real Charlene. They'll get a
I will
reply.
absolutely write back. In fact, it was funny because I do a lot of stories about having hypothyroidism, and just because I grew up with it. And so somebody wrote me an email the other day, and she was just saying, like, I don't feel like all my numbers are right. And I wrote back a whole thing about, oh, this is what I found, and this is what I think the doctors do. And are you eating soy? And I just had a whole bunch of little tips for her. One story that really stuck with me was this girl that just said she read my story and she comes from a family that food is love and they eat all the time. And she just said, I felt like you were talking to me. That's amazing. Another part of the country. And somebody felt like some part of what I said was talking to them specifically. So I take that seriously. I have friends that message me, followers that just message me, I'm at a restaurant, what do I order? Or they'll send me the menu link and I'll be like, okay, do this without that, try this.
Okay. Then real quick, what's that one tip if you're sitting down in the restaurant and you're looking at this menu and you're really trying to stick to your guns?
My
What
biggest
would
tip
that
about
be?
going to a restaurant is not to decide what you're getting when you're in the restaurant. I always check the menu online ahead of time because then you can very thoughtfully reflect on what you're going to get. That's one of my biggest things is I try to decide what I'm having ahead of time. But even when I am in a restaurant, I try to think of foods in their lowest common denominator.
Just have a piece of grilled fish or chicken or
Right.
something covered in something.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for today. Your story and your personality just comes
Oh,
across as just so appealing. And yeah, I'm just so glad that we've known each other for a while and finally be able to, get face to face.
this was
This
really
is
nice.
really special. Thank you for joining us on Real Wisdom. If you're inspired by stories like this and want to be part of a community that celebrates the wisdom of women, visit joinempart.com and become part of our conversation. And don't forget to subscribe here for even more real wisdom. Until next time, keep embracing your story.